See the light.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a great privilege to get to share God's word with you guys. You guys are awesome. And, I always think over the past, you've been here for a number of years. And I just think when the word is shared, that's when you really get to know somebody. Some of the people that shared I've never really met, Steve, and you hear the word shared and it's like, okay. You get to know them, right? Well, I'm going to share on Moses. And I guess I was thinking about Moses' recompense of the reward. We're going to go to, guess I'm going to go to Hebrews 11. Guess what chapter? Hebrews 11. Give it away. But we're going to go to Hebrews 11, verse 23. You see, Moses lived in light of eternity. And how do we know that? Well, because of the legacy that he left, right? There's other men that have left legacies. We're going to leave a legacy, right? We're going to leave a legacy. And Moses left a legacy. And we're going to go to Hebrews 11, verse 23. And we're going to read about, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents. Because they saw that he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. Okay, we're not afraid of that. So by faith, really by faith of his parents, right? His parents. But then it says, by faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Okay? So, I'll tell you, we were listening to a teaching a while back, I think it was Tom Jackson, he talked about sometimes the hardest time to stand is when things are going great. Yeah. Pleasures are there. And you kind of just, put things off. Egypt was nice. Moses was in the court, okay, and Natalie and I went to the Met, we've been to the New York Museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art, see some of the artifacts that were there, fine art. I mean, when you look at the stuff, you say, man, this stuff is like just gorgeous, beautiful. You have to have a nice, easy life. So he had to make some decisions, didn't he? He could have, held on to Egypt. But if God made deliverance another way besides Moses, then where would he be? Right? Well, he'd be mourning the Egyptian dead at the Passover, right? Something like that. Well, let's continue reading. So verse 25 says, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. And there were a lot of treasures in Egypt. Take it from me having seen some of them. Jim and I went to the Cairo Museum years ago. There are a lot of treasures in Egypt. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover, and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians sang to do, but after them they drowned. Okay? So, Moses went through a few things in his life. We look past and we see some of the glory that he went through, but we're going to go to Acts chapter 7. So Acts chapter 7 is a discourse it's normally called Stephen's Discourse. He's talking about the history of children of Israel and the history of the word, I guess you could say. And we're going to look at, he was talking about Moses. And in verse 20, it says, and when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son, but he lived in the court. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and deeds. So he was well known in Egypt. Well known. Moses would have had access to the Egyptian archives. What other great personality might have contributed to the Egyptian archives? Joseph, right? Yeah, exactly. So, Moses was known in Egypt, in his time. And he had carte blanche. Would it have been easier to, stay an Egyptian, be a part of the Egypt that lost all their firstborn? Well, at that time he would have, right? Not knowing what was going to happen. It would have been easier. Verse 23. And when he was full 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. And seeing some of them and suffer wrong, he defended them and avenged him that was oppressed and smote the Egyptian. For he supposed that his brethren should have understood how God, by his hand, would deliver them. But what happened? They didn't understand. And the next day, he showed himself unto them as they strove, and would have set them at one again, saying, Sirs, your brethren, why do ye wrong one another? But he did this, but he that did his neighbor wrong, thrust him away, saying, What made thee a ruler and a judge over us? Will you kill me, as thou didst the Egyptian yesterday? This would be the beginning of lots of troubles he would have with his own brethren, children of Israel. See, they weren't really good to get along with for Moses. But you see, Moses must have perceived something greater. When the children of Israel weren't even thankful for some of the things he was doing for them, he had to have seen something greater than just that, right? Look at verse 29. It says, Then fled Moses at this saying, and was a stranger in the land of Midian, where he begat 2 sons. And then 40 years were, and when 40 years were expired, there appeared unto him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai the angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in a bush. So finally he sees something. 40 years, he's in a holding pattern, right? Sometimes, when something doesn't happen for us in 40 seconds, we're ready to give up. 40 years, he's hanging in there, You know what, but he's hanging in there. He's ready, so he's ready to go. So verse 30 says, or verse 31, and when Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight. And as he drew near, he beheld it. And the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled, and durst not behold. Then said the Lord unto him, Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place wherein thou standest is holy ground. I have seen the affliction of my people, which is in Egypt, and I have heard their groaning, and am come down for to deliver them. And now come, I will send thee into Egypt. And Moses, whom they refused, saying, and this Moses whom they refused, saying, Who hath made me a ruler and a judge? The same did God send to be a ruler and a deliverer in the hand of the angel which appeared unto him in the bush. And he brought them out. So it's really hard to see these lights are very hard. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. That's better. It says right here, and he brought them out after that he had showed them wonders and signs in the land of Egypt and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years. This is that Moses which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall your Lord God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear. That's because you're not hearing me. I was thinking about that. So you're not hearing me, you're going to hear him. Verse 38 or verse 39 or verse 38. This is he that was in the church or the congregation in the wilderness with the angel which spake unto him on Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the living oracles to give unto us, to whom our fathers would not obey, but thrust them from them, and in their hearts turned back again to who? To Egypt, right? Saying unto Moses, or Aaron, make us gods to go before us. As for this Moses that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we know not what's become of him. And they made a calf in those days, and offered sacrifice and an idol, and rejoiced in the works of their own hand. You know, Moses chose the hard road. You have to deal with these people, right? He chose the hard road. One of these occurrences, Moses told God to give water to his brethren. You know, after the children of Israel chided with him, we're going to die. So, you know, where's God? I mean, come on, Moses, give us water, right? So on one of these occasions, God said, well, give him water. Okay? Give him water, and God's a loving God. And so he wanted Moses to teach him something, trying to lead him along in this whole process of giving him water. If you go to Numbers chapter 20, that's where this occurs. Numbers chapter 20. And we're going to start in verse 1. See Leviticus, Numbers chapter 20. Here we are. And in verse 1, it says, and the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation to the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh. And Miriam died there and was buried there. There was no water. So this is a while into the, to their wandering, isn't it? You think they'd learned something, about what God's done for them. And there was no water for the congregation. They gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people chode with Moses and spoke, saying, would God we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. Why have you brought this congregation of the Lord into this wilderness? And we and our cattle should die here. Oh my gosh. 40, I know I did have 40 years of that. Right? Moses had to have seen something bigger than having to deal 40 years of this, right? But we're probably, I don't know, we're not 40 in a year, but we're a number of years into the wanderings. And it says, and wherefore have you made us to come up out of Egypt, to bring us into this evil place? It's no place of seed or figs or vines or pomegranates. Is there any water to drink? And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye, what? Speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water. And thou shalt bring forth the water out of the rock, and thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord, as he commanded them. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, so here it is. This is what he said. He says, hear ye now, you rebels. Must we fetch you water out of this rock? But what did God say? Speak to the rock. It's going to give forth water. You rebels, do we have to really do this? Not very loving, is it? So, but it worked, didn't it? Sorry. So what did he do? Look what he did. And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice. And water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank in their feet. So he said he was bam, bam. And then, the water came out. So it worked. But did he do it right? Was it God's intention, right? What was the significance of the water? What did God want Moses to teach them? Look at, keep your finger here, we're going to come back. Well, go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Okay, 1 Corinthians 10. It's kind of cool. See, God wanted Moses to show them something. Perfectly honest with you, I don't know what I would have done. I was 40 years of hearing them complain. I don't know what I would have done. I might have got my rod and beat it on the rock. Anyway, it says right here in chapter 10, verse 1, Moreover, brethren, I would not that you would be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual food. What was that spiritual food they ate? Manna. Bread. The bread from heaven. Remember that? And did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock. The text reads, following it. Right? And that rock was who? Christ. Hey, what do you think Moses would have taught them about the rock? Speaking to the rock. Rock. You're our rock. Give us water. Right? Give us the water that we need for life. Isn't that cool? Would that have been a lesson? Yeah. The children of Israel? Instead of, to get water off. Right. Well, traditional people say, we're going to read it. Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. Back to Numbers. Back to Numbers, chapter 12. We're going to read chapter 20, verse 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land where I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. Alright, so on top of all this, Jesus Christ, or Moses had to deal with the children of Israel. And now he doesn't get into the land at all. So, because of what he did, you don't even get into the land. Can you believe that? Yet, what did Moses do? Could he have complained? Could he become bitter toward God? Right? Could he have said, now I don't get the land. I look all the work I did for you. Come on. Well, right? How many people would do stuff like that? Not Moses. Moses stood faithful. Look at Numbers 27. Numbers 27 and verse 12. Numbers 27:12. And the Lord said unto Moses, Get thee up into this mount of Abiram, and see the land which I have given to the children of Israel. And when you've seen it, also you shall be gathered unto thy people as Aaron thy brother was gathered. You know what that means? Okay, look at the land, and you're going to die. That's what it says. Where are we at here? Okay, look at Psalm 106. Psalm 106. Like I said, people say, well, I've heard before, that's why you didn't get into the land, because you made a mistake. We were joking about it, James and I, earlier. Yeah, don't hit the rock twice, Moses. Just hit it once. Because sometimes you think that's what it was. It wasn't that, okay? It was way bigger than that. In Psalm 106 and in verse 32. And they angered him also. They angered, God also at the waters of strife, so that it went ill. Oh, actually, no, they angered him also. That was Moses. The children of Israel angered him at the waters of strife, so that it went ill with Moses for their sakes. because they provoked his spirit, so that he spoke unadvisedly with his lips. Isn't that amazing? He didn't speak the right thing, no promised land. So, in spite of all that, what did God think about this Moses? Look at Deuteronomy 34. Like I said, he could have given up, but he didn't. And all of this was all part of the relationship with God. He made mistakes. God said, okay, let's move on. Now you get to see the promised land. Let's move on. I'm going to work for you. I'm going to work with you. And let's move on. And in Deuteronomy 34, this is near the end of Moses' life. Maybe after Moses' life. Anyway, verse 10, Deuteronomy 34, it says, "And there arose not a prophet since in Israel, like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew what? Face to face." Psalm 103. It's Psalm 103. This is Moses' legacy. In spite of all the stuff he went through, this is Moses' legacy. Psalm 103, and in verse 7, this is talking about God. He made known his ways unto Moses, his acts unto the children of Israel. Children of Israel saw his acts. Parting the Red Sea, this and that. Right, great water, great rule. When's the next thing happening, right? But Moses got to see God's ways. Got to get to know God. Got to have a relationship with God. Isn't that cool? What would you rather have? Just see all the miracles, or to have a relationship and know, I know why God's doing this. Cool, right? Look at Matthew chapter 17. We're going to go to an event that's really significant. Matthew 17. It's called the Transfiguration, and it is a vision where, you guessed it, this man Moses appeared. Okay. And to me, that just speaks of the legacy that Moses left. When you really read Matthew 17 and this legacy and this transfiguration. But who does he appear with? None other than Jesus Christ. So you know that Moses looked forward to the Christ, to the coming of Christ. Matthew 17, verse 1. And it says, "After 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, brings them up into a high mountain apart. And he was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah, talking with them. Then answered Peter and said unto the Lord, it's good for us to be here. If you will, we'll make 3 tabernacles, 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, of whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. And Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, be not afraid. And when they lifted up their eyes, they saw no man, save Jesus only. And as they came down from heaven, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the what?
Vision.
The vision. Tell the vision, it was a vision.
Right.
Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man is risen again from the dead. Isn't that amazing? And we read it again in Mark. Look at Mark chapter 2. Mark 9, sorry. Mark 9, verse 2. And it says, And after 6 days, Jesus taketh with him Peter and James and John, and leads them up into a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. And his raiment became shining, exceeding white as snow, and there was no fuller on earth that could white them. And there appeared unto them Moses, or Elijah and Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Peter answered, he did the whole thing again, right? And then you have, again, the same record in Luke. Let's go there too. Luke chapter 9. And this record is in verse 28 of Luke 9. Luke 9:28. And it says, and it came to pass, after in 8 days after these sayings, he took Peter and John and James and went up into a mount to pray. And as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistering. And behold, there talked to him 2 men, which are Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory, and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish in Jerusalem. So what were they doing? They were talking to him about what would happen in Jerusalem soon, right? But Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were awake, they saw the glory of the 2 men that stood with him. And it came to pass, as they departed from him, Peter said unto Jesus, Master, we went through the whole thing. It's good for us to be here. Of course, then God reproves Peter, God himself, right? But anyway, the question I had was, why Moses? Why Elijah? Right? Why would they appear with Jesus Christ? Well, there's some parallels. Moses fed bread to the multitudes, right? Jesus fed the multitudes. But even greater, Jesus is the true bread from heaven, the bread of life. He's also the water of life that Moses should have taught the children of Israel about, right? When Moses came down from the mount, his face shone like Jesus' face shone in this vision. And Jesus, it would appear, shine with what the Hebrews call the Shekinah glory. It's like a presence of God. Whew. It's amazing. Indicate the presence of God. And this would have been extremely significant to the disciples. Really significant. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 2. 2 Corinthians 3. And in verse 2. Is that where I'm at? 2 Corinthians. Alright, let's see here. 2 Corinthians chapter 3. And in verse 2 it says, Here our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men, manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshy tables of the heart. And such trust have we through Christ to Godward, not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything is of ourselves, but our sufficiency, our enoughness, is of God, who also made us able ministers of the new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. But if the ministration of death, written and engraven in stones, was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses for the glory of his countenance, which glory was done away, how shall not the ministration of the Spirit be rather glorious? For if the ministration of condemnation be glory, much more the ministration of the righteousness exceed in glory. For even that which was made glorious had no glory in this respect, by the reason of the glory that excels. You see, in the vision, we only see Jesus' face. It says Jesus' face shone. The others appeared in glory, but Jesus' face shone. Jesus' face was even more resplendent than Moses, the lawgiver. Think about that. Verse 11. It says, For if that which is done away is glorious, much more that which remains is glorious. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech. Not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Israel could not steadfastly look to the end of that which is abolished. But their minds were blinded until this day remaineth the same veil, untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Christ. But even unto this day, when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. Nevertheless, when it shall turn to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away. Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is what?
Liberty.
Liberty. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image, from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. Think about that in the transfiguration. Jesus Christ resplendent with his face. If we look to that, what reflects off of us? That same resplendency, right? Okay, so Moses, so these are some of the things. See, Moses was the mediator of the old covenant. Galatians chapter 3. Look at Galatians 3. And in verse 19. Wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgression, till the seed should come, to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. Who is that mediator? Moses. He came down from the mount, from God. He was mediating between God and men with the law, right? He was the mediator of the old law. Now, a mediator is not a mediator of one, but God is one. And Moses is speaking with the mediator of the new covenant, Jesus Christ. Hebrews 9. Look at Hebrews 9. And in verse 15. For this cause, this is Jesus Christ, he is the mediator of the New Testament, or the new covenant, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first covenant, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Isn't that awesome? He's a mediator of the new covenant. Moses, the lawgiver, was speaking with the one. So Moses, the mediator of the old law, was speaking with the new mediator of the new law, the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. Moses, the lawgiver, was speaking with the one who would fulfill all the law. Look at Matthew chapter 5. Is this vision starting to get pretty significant? Excuse me? 5. Matthew 5. And in verse 18, Jesus Christ said, For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be what? Fulfilled. Now there's some other parallels with Elijah. You know, Elijah fed the widow woman and her son for years in a manner similar to Jesus feeding the multitudes. Elijah being representative of the prophets. You got the law and the prophets. And so you have Moses the lawgiver, Elijah the prophet, and you have Jesus Christ, the end of the law for righteousness and the fulfillment of all OT prophecies. Isn't that awesome? So, I wanted to read you something out of, this guy named G. Campbell Morgan. He wrote something about the Transfiguration, but I took some editorial liberties because he's one of those guys that... Okay, so you know that Moses, they don't know where he's buried. Some people think, he's in heaven, I guess. I don't know. Elijah, remember, he was carried away in a whirlwind. There's no he's up in heaven. And now God's allowing him to come down and talk to Jesus. But remember that it was a vision. It was a vision for who? For the disciples, and then Jesus was there too, right? All right. So that's why I changed some things. I won't read you what he said, but it's not very much. Moses' presence signified that in Jesus, the shadows of the law were all fulfilled and now withdrawn. In Jerusalem, men were still fighting not merely for the law of Moses, but for the traditions of the elders and priests and leaders were still arguing about the tithe of mint and cumin. Here upon the mount was the great lawgiver himself. By his presence acknowledging that this glorified one who would presently be crucified in the name of the law, did in himself gather all that was hinted at, suggested, included in the economy of the past. The law with its commands, its forbiddings, was fulfilled in the person of Jesus, and the lawgiver Moses is shown in this vision to greet upon the Mount of Transfiguration the one who in his own person had magnified the law and made it honorable. So also Elijah, he had spoken the word of God from place to place. He had journeyed, speaking to kings in their corruption, to courts in their degradation, and to individuals in their need, that one unceasing word, thus saith Jehovah. He had certainly been one of the most remarkable men in history of the nation of the prophet, from a prophetic standpoint. God had spoken in times past by divers portions in the prophets, but by no man had he said more to the nation than by Elijah. And now he stood upon the mount in this vision, in converse with the one who had said to his disciples, I am the truth. And concerning whom Peter on a subsequent occasion, speaking under the inspiration of the Spirit, said, to him bear all the prophets witness. Every word that passed the lips of Elijah in the olden days had been but the spelling out in simple syllable speech of that which was embodied in the person of Christ. And he now in this vision upon the mount, to acknowledge that in this transfigured one, all the speech of heaven begins and ends. That in him, every prophecy of the past is fulfilled, and that the prophet of the days to come will gather from this man his teaching, his inspiration, his power. See, what does this record of the transfiguration tell us? Well, Moses is the representative of the law, and Elijah the representative of Old Testament prophecies, God's word. Okay? Speaking to Jesus of what he would have to do in Jerusalem soon. So he goes to Jerusalem, or so he goes to the word he finally sees, right? And this is a great vision of what he saw. Moses, I know, is in store for some really wonderful things after the resurrection. He looked forward to the coming of Christ, like other wonderful people in the Old Testament, and he did. And this transfiguration vision is definitely a testimony of that, right? Hebrews chapter 3. We're going to go there. Hebrews 3. Let's see. Hebrews chapter 3, and in verse 2, it says, this is talking about, it says right here, Jesus Christ, who is faithful to him that appointed him, as also Moses was faithful in all his house. For this man was counted worthy of more glory than Moses, inasmuch as he who hath builded the house hath more honor than the house. For every house is builded by some man, but he that built all things is God. And Moses verily was faithful in all his house as a servant, for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken afterwards. But Christ as a son over his own house, whose house are we, if we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope of the end. And to close, I want to go to Hebrews 11. Let me read one more verse. And that is Hebrews 11, verse 26. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. That was that man Moses. Isn't that cool?
Oh, yeah.